well. But oh my god, other than that, I don't really think it's not like I have like a ton to even do today, anyways.
You were saying you have a foam mattress.
Yeah, it's like usually good, but I feel like I was like laying on my back last night. It's like really hurting, and I just like wonder if people were kind of onto something with the old fucking retarded system of just having big springs.
Yeah.
Because I'm just kind of sinking into this foam, and I'm just like I feel like I could use like a little like resistance.
Yeah. That's what I was asking about. I was going to see like what your thoughts are on it because I feel like I've had the same experience. Like I grew up on a
Mm.
spring bed, like
Yeah,
a just a shitty spring bed. And then when I got older and moved into my own place, I got in like a memory foam mattress and
yeah,
I've had the same one for a while, but I just don't know that they're comfortable, but then like yeah, like you're saying if you're laying on your back, you feel like maybe you're not getting enough support like in the arches and like where you're supposed to be getting support. You kind of feel like you're
yeah.
sinking.
Well, yeah. I mean, these foam mattresses are like cheaper,
Mhm.
and I like wonder if that's kind of why.
Yeah.
Is it's there's just not support. So I don't know. Like when I first got like my wife turned me onto it, and we got it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the bee's knees.
Mhm.
What a nifty little thing this is, and it's cheaper. And now I'm starting to be like, well, maybe it's kind of a you get what you pay for type of deal going on here.
Yeah. Dude, have you seen the fucking My Strange Addictions episode where the lady eats memory foam mattress?
Yeah, dude.
Dude, that's so crazy. And it just popped into my head. I'm just like thinking of handfuls of it just going straight into the mouth.
Dude, so we have like a foam mat type of deal. It's thicker than a mat, but it's thinner than a mattress, and we use it for like camping. All right,
Hmm.
we'll like throw it in the back of my truck and just you know off to the races, right?
Yeah.
And my dog, I literally caught him one time just like taking bites out of it. And it's just like, dude, Wallace, what are you doing, bro? And
He
so
looks
now
like he eats fucking foam, bro.
dude, he looks like he eats fucking asbestos.
Yeah.
And uh and so now when I put it away, I need to like roll it up. But I keep like a comforter or like a fitted sheet over it.
Hmm.
So I have to like roll it up with the fitted sheet exposed so that he doesn't have like freaking exposure to chomp. It's absurd.
That's actually a pretty good like camping hack is having like a mattress topper that you can
Yep.
either put in like a truck bed or into the base of your tent.
Yep. Yeah. I personally am a big fan of just like sleeping in my truck.
Yeah.
Um, I think that works pretty well, but
Oh yeah, dude, it's pretty nice and sound. If you have a big enough space back there, we had the same. I had the same car as you when I was growing up, so I'm familiar with your trunk space, and it's pretty spacious, dude. It's a good
yeah,
spot
for
to lay
anybody
down.
listening, that's not a gay innuendo.
Yeah, I'm real familiar with Slav's trunk space. Oh shit.
Dude, did you see Trump just absolutely like just wiped the board in
Yeah,
Iowa?
he lambasted him, dude.
Isn't it like record breaking?
Yeah, absolutely. And the media's trying to play it down. They're like, dude, this could spell trouble for Trump.
Are
Like,
they actually?
yeah, I saw an article and it was like, why Trump's like, well, I don't know, it was saying
Why it's
something about
actually
like,
bad for him to win?
yeah, basically like his like record-breaking margins, like that could be bad somehow. I think it's because like Nikki Haley like did a little better, so they're trying to push Nikki Haley so hard.
Of
Um,
course, dude. Of
and she's
course.
trying to like make herself a
Does.
legitimate option. Like she's trying to sneak in like Biden did in 2020 or 2020 I guess. Fuck dude. I felt
Oh,
like
they're trying to run her as Biden, where they just kind of slip her in, right?
yeah, like
They just roofie the American people,
yeah.
and then like at the last hour, like she's just this kind of central point to just consolidate all this like support into.
Yeah, you're like they're like, "Oh, she's been polling well this whole time. Don't you remember?" And you're like, "Whoa, no. That's not
Right,
happening."
right.
Like Kamala
Oh
Harris.
man.
Oh my God.
Well, dude, the funny thing is I think about it. It's like, I mean, I remember in like 2020 being like, Joe Biden's a fucking joke. He's not gonna win.
Yep.
Like, and at that point I was still on like the Bernie Cope train a little bit, but
Hmm.
still just being like, what the fuck? Like, the guy can barely talk. Like, I'm watching these debates, like, this guy can barely fucking talk. So like, sorry, not gonna happen. And then, but to be fair, he actually was polling well the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, he was polling like well. He wasn't super strong. Like I don't think he was like a clear front runner because it was between him and Bernie pretty significantly at that time.
Yeah.
Um, he was like kind of not a very strong option because you also had like I don't know who the other Democrats were, but they all consolidated around Biden. So like that's like he started polling better towards the end, obviously. But that's like what's happening with Trump. Like Vivek Ramaswamy, he dropped out recently, like either right before Iowa or maybe after, but he dropped out and endorsed Trump.
Did he really?
Yeah, which is not surprising because like he's in on the Trump thing and like Trump speaks kindly of Vivek at his rallies and stuff like that. So it makes sense that he would
Do
lend
we
him.
still think? Do we still think that he's gonna um become his running mate?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of articles now talking about Nikki Haley as his running mate, and I don't understand. Like, this could just
There's
be
no way.
complete
There's
cope.
no fucking way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's. I was saying there's no way he would do that. I mean, I wouldn't think. Um, that would be insane to me. But like, I guess she is kind of like similar to a Pence type in a way, where it's like she's just this fucking establishment slug, like neocon, where you're like that would help balance out. I don't know, whatever. But I
Oh,
don't
okay.
think
Yeah,
that
he
he's gonna
dropped out
go for
after the
that.
Iowa caucus. I mean, he probably did shit in the Iowa
Oh,
caucus.
dude, Iowa's not voting for Vivek Ramaswamy, dude.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
He'd do better out in your area for sure.
Oh, dude, for sure. We're inundated with them. All right, let's hold on. I want to just look at the results real fast. This is just this is fucking just New York Times, so take it with a grain of salt. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit, man. Do you want to play the numbers game a little bit?
Dude, I think if I remember correctly, I saw some polling out of there and it was like, or some early results or something, and he was in the 50s and then everyone else was in 21 or below.
Yeah, man. He
That's
got more than
crazy.
he got like he got like substantially more than twice what Ron DeSantis got.
Yeah, he didn't even
He's at
win by
50.
plurality. He won by majority, which is
No,
nuts.
yeah, no, he literally won by majority. And so you got Donald J. Trump with his golden boy smile profile picture there, 51%.
Yeah, there
Ron
we go.
DeSantis, sorry, definitely not 51. 21.2.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Haley, 19.1. Vivek Ramaswamy, 7.7. Ryan Binkley. That's just a bad last name.
Yeah.
It's like baby wants his Binkley.
Dude, who the hell is that?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know who
I've
the
never
next
even
two
heard.
people are. He got 0.7. Asa Hutchinson got 0.2, and Chris Christie got less than 0.1% of the vote.
What is he doing in the race, bro?
I think he was just down there for some like hot dogs.
Probably some free campaign like food.
Yeah, I mean, isn't the joke that like everyone hates Chris Christie? Isn't that the entire joke?
Yeah, he's reprehensible, dude, from any angle.
Yeah, he's just like an evil little fat. Well, he's not little.
Yeah.
I was about to say evil little fat man, but I can't even call him a little fat man. He's a big fat man.
Yeah. Dude, I just think about him and like I think of him as like the penguin of Atlantic City. I don't even know why. That's just like that's his association in my brain.
Yeah. Now I'm just picturing like the Batman, like in just a lib way. I'm just picturing like what the Batman universe and politics would be.
Oh
Remember like
god.
that like lib Avengers thing.
Oh fuck me to death, dude. I had a fucking video of that on my phone. I was going through to clear up some space because I realized I had just endless like screenshots and stuff from when we were doing the Fed post. I just had that still in my drive, like from making memes or whatever. So I was
Huh.
cleaning all that up and I found where I had taken a recording of the Avengers video with like Joe Biden is like Iron Man or whatever. I don't remember who's who. Maybe he's Captain America. But like all of the libs are like there, and they're like, it's so crazy, dude. I deleted it recently, like right after I watched it, because I was like, I don't even need this
And you like
reminder.
felt healthier the second it was off your phone.
Yeah, dude. I have not yet been able to do that with the AOC deep fakes I have on my phone, though.
Oh no.
Oh
Oh
Lord.
no. We've all been real worried about you, man.
Yeah, they're like, dude, you've been really getting into this AOC like deep fake realm. I don't know if that's healthy or if I'm comfortable with it.
Oh my god, man.
There was a lot of that going on for well, that's something that's cooled down is AOC. Like she really lost like the
Yeah,
mandate of heaven.
dude, AOC's over. I don't know if you
Yeah.
heard. AOC's straight up just over.
A oversee.
A over. Yeah,
Fuck.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I don't even know. I don't even know what to say. Like, I was thinking about her the other day because I was looking at some of those deep fake videos for reasons. No, I'm just kidding.
It's
And
for research.
yeah, just research, doing a little for a friend, you know.
Episode prep.
And yeah, man, remember it was like all AOC for a little while. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the like makeup tutorials. She was doing makeup tutorials, dude.
Yeah. She was drinking wine on Instagram Live, sitting in her floor, just for hours.
Putting IKEA furniture together. Dude,
Yeah.
women, what's up with women and just sitting on the floor?
They love sitting on the floor. That's actually a very feminine trait.
It is. I don't know what's going on with it. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like maybe it's like they think that yoga's about to happen at any moment. Maybe like Pilates might break out.
Dude, I'll tell you right now. Last couple days, I've done yoga,
Hmm.
and I kind of like it. All
Yeah,
right.
I like yoga, dude.
Yeah, I kind of like it. I've been feeling a little tight. Okay. And I'll be honest with you, I've gone through phases, but lately I've kind of just I'm more or less settled on like I think the gym is a fucking big feeding trough, and I fucking hate going to the gym to lift weights. I
Mm-hmm.
fucking hate it. Um, it's a fucking mess. It sucks. If I had like a private gym at home,
Mm-hmm.
um, then I would be lifting. But I fucking hate the gym. I fucking hate going to it. I hate being around these fucking dysgenic people.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I say dysgenic. It's like a bunch of people in better shape than me. So what the fuck am I talking about? But it's these horrible people. Which there's all this pro gym cope online, and I get it. People like
Yeah.
want to have a positive attitude because it's a good thing that people should be doing, and I
And
respect that.
it's the third place for a lot of people.
And it's the third place. It's a horrible third place. It's a
Yeah.
fucking
Oh.
horrible third place. But yeah, I mean, I have just found like the whole thing about like people at the gym are actually really nice is like not quite what people want it to be, but
Yeah.
obviously that's going to depend on the area. But anyways, point is I want to like have some workouts, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, yoga is just body weight exercises, like if you're really bringing it down to that.
But it
But
like incorporates your full body in a natural range of motions, and I think
no,
that that's a big part of it.
exactly, man. And so I just feel like I'm at home, I'm working from home, right? And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm just not quite um like fully in my body, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. You know,
Yeah.
so it is kind of nice just to be like, all right, like let's just kind of, you know, get a little bit of sense of place in here, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
I'm digging it, dude. I'm digging it. I'm digging it. When they get to the end of the fucking yoga and they're like, namaste, I like, do the Our Father because I'm like,
Like, this is my thing. I'm gonna do my thing.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, lady.
I think that's
Uh,
a healthy way to do that, though. Like, I think that's what like cultural exchange is about, and I think that like someone who would be like a really like on the yogi shit would be
mhm,
like, yeah, you should actually do that because there's a lot of people who teach like yogi, like mantra meditation and stuff like that, but they say that like if you are in the like a Catholic tradition or Christian tradition or culture, that you
Mhm.
should use like the rosary, you should do Our Father, you should like look at a picture of Jesus if you want to, but you can still incorporate like the techniques from Eastern tradition, because like the techniques themselves, they can be done in kind of pretty much like be as what's it called, not assembled, but what's it fuck assimilated into your like your more Christian traditional
Well,
practice.
this is the whole thing, man. It's like people get all fucking crazy about yoga, like anti-yoga, right? And then people being like, "Fucking, this is my fucking religion," which I
Mm-hmm.
get. I'm not gonna act like I know better. It's a fucking deep Lindy thing
Yeah.
for like the East and shit, right? So I'm not gonna act like I know better. But I have like a certain frustration with like young westerners that seem to not really have any like sense of like duty to continue on their culture. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's fucking a lot of people in the East, I'd
Mm-hmm.
imagine too. I mean, look at China. But anyways,
And India, dude.
I
I
mean,
look at
just
both, any
everywhere,
of
right?
them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And but like, fuck, what was I even gonna say?
The only
Oh,
place where
no,
you
no, no.
have,
Well, people just get all fucking crazy about yoga, and it's just like it's fucking, it's like calisthenics, motherfucker.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? No, no. Again. It's like, what the fuck do I? Slav does yoga 2 times, and is now just like, I think I know a little bit. So everything. Everybody should just calm down a little bit about what they think this is. Um, but I don't know. I'm just thinking about it because it's like I
Well,
know people that are like, you know, Christian, that are like, fucking yoga's fucking evil, and it's like, all right. I mean,
that's
like,
retarded.
yeah, I mean, I like it's like I can kind of understand where it's like, okay, like I I don't like fucking subcultures that are like culty and like turn themselves at a certain point into something that's like competing with Christianity, like for
Right.
sure. But
Mm-hmm.
like again, it's just like, bruh, like it's stretching, you know, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So I don't know.
I think there's a lot to what you just brought up. Like, there's a couple key things there, and one of the main things is like what you were saying about people in the West who like are essentially like culturally rootless, and or they're kind of like disavowing
Yeah,
their cultural traditions, and then they pick up these ready-made cultural traditions from people on the other side of the world outside of their cultural context, and they're like, oh, this is everything, this is my thing. And I get that too, because like as someone who's been like somewhat of like on a seeker path or whatever, if you will, who's just like, I'm kind of into like empiricism and firsthand experience, whatever. I kind of went through like a shedding of like my traditional upbringing and like my culture I was in, and then like kind of went through this process of like just checking out other systems, like checking out Buddhism, checking out yoga, whatever. And then I'm realizing like, oh, all of this speaks to a similar truth, and like there are multiple paths to God, I think personally, and I think that you go with the one that's culturally relevant to you because you have cultural resonance with that tradition because you're born into it. And so it's like I think that for me it was like returning home into the Christian tradition and seeing it as being just as fruitful and just as meaningful, and in touch with like spirituality as these other traditions are. But I think that a lot of people in the West, like, they have an anti-Christian sentiment, and they grow up in this way, and they either want to break out of it or they grow up outside the church in the first place. And there's kind of like this attitude that like Christianity is just like either super strict, like Catholics, and there's bad stuff going on in there, or it's super like by the book Southern Baptist and they're doing like snake talking, and like there's just this idea that it's not containing real honest like core truths and spirituality. But I think
right.
that that's just because like we've been given this like uh commodified version of Christianity a lot, and that's kind of the way that they kind of show it to us in the culture and people think of it. And I think that's not really dealing with the meat of what the actual religious tradition is about. And there's plenty of beautiful contemplative and spiritually rich stuff within the Christian tradition. And I think that like you can use information from other spiritual practices around the world to help you strengthen your own commitment in your own practice yourself within your own spiritual and cultural context. So like you don't have to be like, oh, Christianity is dumb, I'm going to go do yoga now and yoga's everything, because you didn't grow up within yoga cultural traditions, and so it's not going to resonate with you as strongly as like just doing something that's more in line with like what your people and your family and your lineage has been doing for years.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this last night. We got a couple of friends that are kind of going through it right now a little bit with something. And and I'm talking to my wife and I'm like, all right, like this is a situation, where they're like they're like new parents and they're having a hard time with it. I'm just like wondering how much I want to. It's like I'm wondering how much easier it will be if I just talk about it a little bit more directly versus the likelihood that one of them actually listens to it. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's so narrow that I'm just going to talk about it a little more directly. Um, and they're just having a little bit of a hard time, right? And they're kind of approaching it a little bit in a way that's not quite how we would do it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm thinking about it and I'm just like, all right, well, like, this kind of situation is gonna like really kind of kick their ass a little bit, and then probably like create an opening, to for them to kind of, I don't know, gain some common sense. Not to be too, harsh, but and I think about it, and I was thinking about it like, in a religious sense, right? And just being like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, right, like these are people that are generally pretty dismissive of Christianity and everything, and it's just like I have to like have the kind of the faith in the idea that it's like, all right, like, God wants you to be fruitful and multiply,
Mm-hmm.
and like if you're like living in a godly way, like he loves you and he's gonna basically like kind of guide you as you're going, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things are gonna, I mean, obviously, help those that help themselves, but you're walking in the right path, right? And so obviously, like, things will work out for them, but like at the same time, like maybe they're not really open to that and they don't have like a really strong connection with God,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because they've generally been dismissive of it. And so I was like thinking about it, and it's like, all right, well, I think kind of the compromise kind of basically just comes down to like, I feel like, because it's like God loves you and God wants the best for you. And I think that with people you love, you kind of have a sense of like where to meet them and what to expect of them.
Yeah.
And like if my mom does something kind of crazy or like inconsiderate, I'm just like, okay, right, like I love you, of course you did this, right?
Mm-hmm.
um and I think it would be the same thing with God for a lot of people, is he'll just be
Yeah.
like, you know what, like you don't need to be like going to fucking mass constantly and like believing the word to the T of it, right? Like right now the best you can do is to like have some weird watered down different cultural take on it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's going to be enough. And then maybe in the future, like I'm really a big believer in like you continue to deepen it, right?
Yeah. Of course.
And because I do feel like there's times, I mean, honestly, like right now a little bit, where like if I stop that process of deepening it, I feel like it atrophies a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think the idea is basically just like, all right, like right now like this is enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have that connection with God, and then in the future, he'll kind of expect you to level it up a little bit more. I think like Orthodox Christians think about sin as like a, and my wife was talking to me about this, is it's like a blockage in a connection to God,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like that way of looking at it, and I think it is kind of one of these things. That's kind of how I think about what you're talking about, of like, oh man, like, there's truth present in a lot of this stuff, and like there's many ways to get to God. And I think it's like I think there's a way of looking at that like balances like the word and the one true path towards
Mm-hmm.
God, which is like Christianity, and that stuff. And I think it
Yeah.
is just like, I think God loves people enough to
Mm-hmm.
basically meet them where they're at and be like, this is as much as you can do right now.
Yeah.
And that's like fine. Whereas like God's probably coming to me and he's like, all right, like you're like doing all your laundry together and you're like, you know what I mean? Just like the random shit. And he's like, all
Yeah.
right, I'm
Yeah.
not going to expect that of you. You know, like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
okay. Um, that's kind of
Yeah.
my take on it. And
I think everyone's on their own kind of spiritual journeys, of course. And I think that there's not any particularly like, there's not a roadmap that is, explicit that's going to be the exact same for every individual. And so I think that like what you have to do is like, ideally you just kind of walk in faith. And if you have a hard time doing that at times, I think that's also okay, because like God or Jesus or, however you want to view this, is it's going to be there. I'm not saying like you should like, oh, well, I'm just going to kick this to the curb for 2 weeks and I'll be back, but it's like, he walks with you. And if there is a bunch of static in the system that's going to take a long time to clear out, he's going to be there helping you clear that out. And he's going to be like sending messages through to try to help you deal with that and try to like show you a better way and, strengthen you, etc. And also like, if you do fall from the path or whatever, he's right there every time. If you look to him, he'll be there. Even if you're not, he's there. So it's like, the way I think about it is, everyone is on their own individual journeys, and like certain things work for individuals, right? And so like you can't ever really say like you need to do, if you say this amount of like, Hail Marys or Our Fathers or whatever, that's fine, which I know that's maybe different. I don't want to get into crossing over toes or anything, but I think there's not like a set playbook that's like, this is exactly what you should do as an individual for everybody. I think that there's like a rough guide, like a map, and it shows you what the destination is, and it shows you kind of some strategies you can use to get there. But at the end of the day, it's on you and your personal connection with the Lord and like what gets through to you. And you have to choose what works for you and what doesn't. And I think that like, it's a way more personal thing than I think we're introduced to it as. And I think in America, you're talking about like, maybe it's not, maybe some people can only give whatever amount, and like if you need like a watered down version of it, then that's fine. I think that the earnest truth, unfortunately, is that in most religious traditions, Christianity or otherwise, the majority of the people who are practitioners of that or consider themselves that are operating in a watered down
yeah,
version of it in the first place. And so it's like, unfortunately, that's like 90% of the people that you're going to be seeing at mass or that you're going to be seeing at church.
That's a pretty good point.
So it's like, you get out of it what you put in. So like, if you get serious about like, I'm going to really want to pursue a personal connection with my great higher power, then you can do that. And like, and I think that like you start getting out what you put in, and he kind of like help you strengthen that path along the way. But I think that there's so many people that are given this version of watered down religion, Christianity, that doesn't actually include a genuine connection with spirituality or with God really at all. And it doesn't really show you what that looks like in any meaningful way. And so people think that like, oh, I'm going through the motions, I'm doing the thing. This is what it means to like have a Christian faith. And it might mean that for you. But ideally, I think that you want to move deeper into the journey, and that's just like really an entry level kind of way. And like maybe through doing the motions over time, you can build that resonance that'll help you to make that next leap or take a deeper plunge into it. But I think maybe some people just that's the path that they're going to take. It's just like they're going to be on kind of like just dipping their toes in, kind of thing. And I think that like, maybe that means that they have an opportunity to dive deeper in if they want to, and it would be good for them too. But I think that like, not everyone's going to have this extreme personal connection with God, like off the bat. And like, I think maybe some people take the back door to get that, where like, maybe you don't get that really in this life because you're not someone who's really easily attuned to that. And like, maybe it comes in the afterlife or whatever it is,
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I mean, and also, I mean, think about like the classic, like person goes most of their life out without thinking about this stuff. And then, they're looking down death towards the end of their life. And then it's like, they have the change. Right. And that's like, okay. That's like literally okay for people to do. So Yeah, man. I think that's an interesting point you make. That's totally true about how most people are following it in what would be considered like a flawed way.
That's
And
what
I
like
think,
pushed me away from it so much, which is a flawed method of thinking on my end. But I was just like looking around, I'm like, none of these people that are like in this thing with me are having any like, they're not acting like it. They're not
right,
actually upholding any of this stuff. They don't, it doesn't seem like they have any genuine connection with anything greater. And like, it's like, so it's like, what's going on here? And then you have to realize, like, well, that's not a flaw or a fault of the tradition itself. That's just how people are in their fallen state. And like, it's just difficult. You're not going to have, not everyone within any given religion is going to be the absolute, embodiment of it. Not everyone within, Christianity is going to be St. Francis or whatever. There's going to be some just regular people doing just normal shit, but they're just still a part of the tradition, and I think in a way that's still meaningful for them and still can lead to salvation.
right. Yeah, it's important to look at it that way. It's important to look at it that way.
Like I
Well,
think we're still called to like develop a deeper understanding of our relationship with God at every given moment. And once you're made aware of that and you're like view it as a conscious goal, I think at that point, like it's like an active sin to not take every opportunity to do that. But I think that like there's like kind of a indirect sin where it's just kind of blocking you from that realization for a lot of people in the first place.
yeah, I mean, it's like this makes me think of this makes me think a little bit of like just the whole idea of, well, what about people that just aren't exposed to Christianity in their
Right.
lives? Um,
Hmm.
so I definitely feel that.
And then with the yoga stuff that you were talking about, I think that like I think that a lot of spiritual traditions around the world and other cultures, like what they kind of formed is a way of understanding the universe around you and like understanding life and what it means to exist and human and stuff like that. And I think that like for a long time before there was like a formal science in formal medical kind of fields and practices, they were kind of tied into the church. And so stuff like yoga and like Tai Chi and all of this kind of stuff, Ayurvedic medicine, etc., although it's nested within the religious tradition of the East, I think it's fundamentally kind of like a just like they're a science. Like it's just like something that it doesn't have to be a religious ritual necessarily that is tied into that tradition. It can be
Mhm.
used as just like the vehicle and you can implant it within your own tradition, I think. So like they're doing a lot of stuff that has to do with the way that energy flows within the body and like they've developed that science over like thousands and thousands of years. And I think that there's a lot to it and it has proven results. And I don't think that anything about that goes in the face of like any Christian doctrine at all. And I don't think that anything about it is specifically Hindu either.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're talking about yoga specifically.
Yeah, like yoga or just like Vedic medicine in general, where they kind of like it's all kind of based around the same principles. And they come
Well,
from like a
it's based all
religious,
right.
it is based, but yeah, it comes from a religious background. But I don't think that that means that it's like conflicting with other religious traditions or that you can't take it out of its like um, I don't mean take it out of
I
its
think I think you
context,
can
but
I think you can I think you can adapt it to not
yeah.
necessarily, yeah, contradict in a way that's too egregious. You know what I mean?
And I don't mean like doing like synchronism or synchreticism, whatever that's called, just trying to blend everything together.
Syncretism,
Yeah,
right?
but I mean like that's not like saying, oh well look, turns out Kali actually just means Jesus. Like I'm not saying that kind of shit. But I'm saying like you
Mhm.
can use some of the like physical practices that they do for elevating bodily health and you can use the same information. You would be foolish not to look to them because they've been just looking at it from another angle for years and years.
Right. Well, I'll say, man, like, whew, I'm doing some of this shit, and the nice thing is you can just do fucking YouTube videos
Mm-hmm.
that just fucking guide you through this shit, and I fucking suck at it, obviously, but man, like this stuff is effective, dude. Like it
Yeah.
really holding these fucking poses and just it's nothing to sneeze at. Speaking of sneezing, my dog is doing something over here. And yeah, no, and so it's just like it's incredibly effective. And
Hmm.
it's almost kind of a shame that it's just like kind of the meme workout that like women do.
Yeah,
Because
that's
it's
why I
just
brought it
like,
up originally, as I was making a joke that it was like a women
yeah.
trait.
Yeah, exactly. It is indeed a female trait. And but it's fucking legit, dude. And
Hmm.
I'm kind of digging it. And hopefully that's not why my back hurt last night.
Well, I was
Um
gonna say, dude, I was gonna ask if maybe it's just because you've been working muscles and stuff in it that you've not been used to using.
well, what's going on? My back has hurt for a little while
Oh,
now.
okay.
And so I might have just gotten a little too excited yesterday with the yoga, or it has nothing to do with it. I'm going to operate on the assumption that it isn't making it worse and just keep doing it
Push through.
cuz yeah, cuz I think it's probably just a good idea to do. It's not
Hmm.
it's not like I'm fucking doing deadlifts or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, like I'm going to fucking break something. Like,
Hmm.
no, I think I'm probably okay. So, but
Yeah, I think that the yoga is good. I've been doing yoga in the morning as well because I have more free time now since I'm not working, and so I've been like getting up and trying to do a stretching or a yoga session for about like 20 minutes in the morning with my like morning tea or whatever. And yeah,
that
it's a good
rules.
way to just kind of balance yourself. And because when I'm not working, I'm not really using my body physically at the same level. And so I'm
Sure.
just like sitting around the house or I'm playing like bass or whatever. And I'm not actually like getting the full range of motion that I typically do. So after a few days of that, I notice like that I start getting tenser, and the more muscle soreness and stuff. And so, yeah, having a yoga or stretching practice, even just stretch and breath work in itself outside of a yoga context is really good.
Dude, for sure. Well, that's like I feel like, especially like working from home, sitting at a desk, like just
Hmm.
stretching in general, man. I get my chest to pop because I like
Dude,
crunch.
I get
I
the
like
same
hunch over.
thing in the
I hate
sternum.
Yeah, the sternum. I feel like I'm
God.
just like rolling my shoulders too much, and like
Hmm.
it's just shit like that. And that's one of the things that's kind of getting me about doing this yoga is it's like I'm stretching, I'm like doing body weight exercise, and I'm like just helping with that range of motion, you know,
Hmm.
which is like huge, improving my posture.
Hmm.
So I'm pretty stoked about that. Um, yeah.
And it does reacquaint you with your body. Like you were saying, you've been feeling kind of like you're not like even in your body when you're like just working at home and stuff. It helps you like if you're going through it and you're holding poses for extended period of time and you're actually like focusing on the breathing or focusing on the area that you're feeling tension, you're like you're putting consciousness into areas of your body that you're not typically doing and you're actually feeling them, and you're like feeling like, oh, this muscle feels this way when I move this body, like my body in this direction. And like that's something that I think, because yoga, or at least in a slow flow kind of way, it gives you the opportunity to kind of like take that rest but within the body, where you're kind of like, yeah, you're reacquainting yourself and rehoming yourself within your body.
Yeah, I like that way of putting it. Um, yeah, I've been digging it, and I think when you spend your days kind of like staring at a fucking monitor, it's good
Mm.
to be like, I'm in my body. So that's a good thing. Well, I am my body, but
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
not just a
it's a good
floating
thing.
consciousness.
No, exactly. I'm not a fucking brain in a jar. Um, so that's legit. Other than that, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, what else do you want to touch on?
Well, man, I mean, there was the Trump thing, and I know we weren't going to talk about the elections much. That's kind of the mode that we're on, and there's not really a whole lot else to cover with it. I mean, there's
I do kind of love it though. I do kind of
yeah.
love, like, I get swept away in it a little bit, you know.
I was actually
Like,
like that was one reason I wanted to talk, because I was going to see how you are responding to it. Like if you're still completely like blasé on the whole thing, or if you're kind of like more like reinvigorated now. Um,
well, both, I think. Like, basically, I'm not like following it like particularly closely,
yeah.
because I still think it's basically like fucking who care, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But uh it fires me up a little bit. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm I'm pleased by the results. I love seeing the rest of the GOP just fucking lose.
Yeah.
And and so yeah. And like DeSantis just absolutely crumbled.
Yeah.
And
Like, what is he even doing in their race anymore? Him or Nikki Haley need to fucking figure it out and drop out and endorse the other one and like try
well
to
the
be
funny
like if
thing
they're
is
gonna
though,
try to do that.
even between the two of them though, they're only like at half the support he had there.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It is fucking crazy, dude. He's just fucking just beating the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
So I love it. I think it's fucking hilarious. You know, I guess it's kind of like we're talking about though. One of the disappointments here is that it's like it's kind of a shame that there just isn't going to be an election on the left wing side.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, and again, it's like to be fair, it's like yeah, okay, it's like there's like a sitting president right now, right? And so it's a little less common for someone in his own party to run against him. That's normal, right? That's what happened last time with Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but
But someone in his own party did run against them, and then they kicked him out of, and they didn't allow him because they wouldn't put him on any of the primary ballots.
wait, who was that?
RFK.
Oh right, is RFK out now? By the way, is
Yeah,
he independent now?
he's running independent now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, and I'm like, right, you're right. And I don't know. RFK kind of came and went in my mind a little bit. I mean, I was digging his stuff. I mean, we've talked a decent amount about RFK.
Mm-hmm.
I was digging his stuff, and then I feel like he really kind of screwed the pooch with the Israel stuff,
Big time. Yeah.
and honestly, then once that happens, right, it just starts. It becomes more and more like obvious all these other little things about him. And it's like okay, like like didn't he hang out with Epstein a pretty solid amount? Like he's a diehard you know follower of the Israel lobby, and I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm just like I'm done now. You
He
know.
had been on the Epstein plane from a flight to like his family property or something like that when he was younger with his family. Um,
Okay.
and it's I mean it's a pretty equal level of involvement with Epstein as Trump. Like you know what I mean it's not like either of them were completely clear of involvement with him in any way. And then
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't know. To me, I was really high on the RFK thing early on, and then like you said, like when the Israel shit popped off, he like really kind of did like a 180 on his anti-war stance that he had with Ukraine, and he was actually just like, well, we need to support Israel and we need to bomb Hamas and like blah blah blah.
Yep.
And I really don't like
Nope.
that. He is super involved with Israel, like he is like really into Israel defense and stuff, but at the same time, like that's also in the context of him recently being in a sit-in hearing and them asking him about anti-Semitism and if he was anti-Semitic and this and that the other. So it's like you kind of like I see it within the scope of that, and also I see like
You see
Donald
how he
Trump
can
is
be pushed in that direction.
yeah,
But that's
and then
the
I
thing is
see Donald Trump
I don't
doing it
think that that's
too.
well, yeah,
The
you're
Israel
right.
stuff. So it's like the body snatchers thing we've talked about before, where it's like, all right, so like what could I really hope for out of an American politician? And it's not going to be someone that's like fuck Israel because that's just not going to happen apparently. And
Yep.
so I have to look at kind of like what's the rest of the stuff, and it's like who's the only person who's talking about microplastics in the food? Who's the only person that's talking about COVID vaccines? Who's the only person that's talking about industrial agriculture causing like autism and causing like issues like that? Who's the only person like stuff that's like vital to the health and well-being of American citizens is like, and then he's also talking about BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, naming them like on in his campaign addresses and saying this is the reason why you can't buy a house. These people own everything. And I think that that's like I think that's really meaningful from like a perspective of someone who is in the working class and it's like, dude, what the fuck? Why can't I goddamn get a home loan? And it's the only person that's speaking about it at all. Like he's the only one that to me is speaking to issues that actually affect my day-to-day basis. Whereas Trump is just like a victory lap on some fuck these libs and fuck all this shit. Like, let's just get this wrecking bull in there. But at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it's like, he's not gonna do a goddamn thing that's gonna really benefit me. And he doesn't even really talk about doing anything that I know of.
yeah. I
Like, he
mean,
might do
Trump
some
is
trade stuff.
still the revenge candidate.
Yeah. Which I get. And like, I don't know. That's like where I'm at. I don't know if I'll vote this election or not, but like, my thing is I would be torn between RFK and Trump, because the Trump thing is like, I feel like the vengeance and like the revenge thing, but at the same time I'm like, do I want to maybe just like, if I'm gonna vote for someone who is kind of actually speaking to the things that I'm interested in? And that's kind of been my whole thing, like the whole time. It's like, are you gonna actually speak to my individual interests in any meaningful way? And Trump does in a symbolic way, where like RFK does in like more like actually directly speaking to the things. But that doesn't mean he's going to do anything, or that his vision for fixing like those problems is actually going to impact things in the long term or even be feasible.
Yeah, I think I think if there was ever an election to be like, maybe I just say fuck it, who cares? I think this is a incredibly reasonable one.
Yeah. Yeah, I am I don't know what's going on here. We got some shit local representatives that are real fucked, and they're up for re-election. We got a letter in the mail about it the other day, and it would make me happy to get to vote her out of the position she's in. So I might actually vote for the very first time in my life this year. We'll see.
The local stuff's a good
Yeah,
place to start, right? I mean, that's still kind of a consensus for most people that like local elections good.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, they still are basically going to be fucked either way, but it's like
I mean,
the
it's
closest thing you have.
electoralism.
Yeah, but it's the closest thing you have to any type of meaningful control of your government at all is local shit. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm not. Yeah. I'm not all that fired up about it, but we'll see. I guess I'll still sit here and enjoy the headlines from my little, little armchair here, you know.
yeah, that's my
But
thing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, fucking whatever, man.
Well,
Um,
the other things that I mean, there's a handful of things. One of them I brought up on the last episode, and then we kind of talked about for a split second, but it was like the 3D printed meat. So I've been seeing a lot of that going on, and then
uh-oh.
also there was a really big study that came out recently about phthalates, PTHLAT. I don't know, phthalates.
Sure.
They're like a plastic hardening chemical
Uh-huh.
that's tied to a lot of really really horrible um, neurological diseases and cancer and stuff like that. And they did a supermarket study recently where 85 out of 86 food items taken out of a supermarket contain phthalates, and then 80% of
Wait,
food
what
that's a
did in a supermarket?
85 out of 86 items taken out. Like they just took 86 random items out of a supermarket, and 85
Oh,
of them
damn.
contain phthalates. Um,
To be fair, there's a lot of items in a grocery store, so we don't know what they
sure,
grabbed, right?
for sure. And
But
then
yeah, that's it. Yeah.
that came, the article I was reading about that also had an additional study in there about BPA plastic, which is like, if you even go buy plastic now, most of it, like a plastic cup, it'll be like no BPA or
Yeah,
whatever.
BPA free shit. Yeah.
Yeah, because BPA is like bad and was like one of the first plastic things that was like made
More
illegal.
like BP gay.
Oh, yes.
It'll
Yes.
make you gay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
But so they did a study on that, and then they were finding that um, 80% of the given fast food and like regular food items that they took from the grocery stores and stuff across America contain BPA plastics, like microplastics, but of BPA, not just like
Yeah.
general microplastics. So, I mean, obviously, we already know about the microplastics and everything, but I think this just kind of is like it brought up the topic to me of just kind of like agriculture and our food intake and like basically just like what kind of how we're doing it with like all the microplastics and everything, with all the chemicals that are getting into it from hormones and stuff. Um, and I don't know that I have a really good topic here, but primarily just kind of like the microplastics thing. It, we've been getting studies the past like 5 to 10 years, just like, hey, there's plastics and everything. Hey, you're eating a credit card of plastic a month. Hey, you're doing this plastics and this, and it's just been a steady stream of it, and it's getting worse. And there's just literally nothing done about it.
Yeah.
And it's just we're
Yeah,
just gonna be plastic eventually.
I mean, it seems so like it seems so foundational that it seems like it's difficult to do much about it. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I like, I'll, I'm sure that this isn't. Uh, I'm sure that this isn't like a be all end all solution, but this is something I've been thinking about lately, and I think it goes in this case too, which is like, dude, just like eat whole foods, like
Hmm.
eat whole foods, um, and like shop on the outer margins of the grocery store, because like, yeah, that like, that vegetable that you get in the produce section, yeah, okay, it probably got here touching some plastic, and it's by no means perfect, right? But it's not going to be, it's not going to be totally inundated with this shit the way that, I don't know. I mean, I could say plastic water bottle, but that's not a very good comparison. But just the processed
Maybe
foods,
processed meat. Yeah.
just as anything, right? Anything on the interior of the store for the most part. Um, and so I think just like using a little bit of common sense is still really important. I mean, yeah, I mean, what the fuck is ever going to change with this stuff, or at least in the next like 10 years? I don't really know. I mean, I guess I think about like unleaded gasoline,
Hmm.
right? Unleaded gasoline was a big win in this way, right? And that happened in like a relatively short period of time. So maybe something like this happens. I don't really see how it does though, because I mean, plastic is fucking everywhere. It's like what we use for everything. We like replaced everything being made of metal for everything being made
Hmm.
of plastic. Now, I guess maybe you could have it all be BPA free plastic or whatever, right? But I don't know.
That
I'm
doesn't
like a
even
little
mean
bit,
anything,
yeah, I'm like a little skeptical of that too. So
right? I mean,
I
because
don't
the
know.
other plastic is just as equal. It's also bad for you. I think it's just like BPA was like one of the first chemical compounds that they found within plastic that they were able to like meaningfully link in studies, and so like there's precedent for that one being dangerous. But of course, the other ones are not good for you either. Um, and like there are people that talk about like there's certain microplastics that just like they collect in your body, and so like they can cause blockages in certain areas, and like no one really knows where the plastic is going, because it's not like all getting filtered, like just going straight into the gut and then coming out in shit. Some of it's getting absorbed into your body, so it's like you're just taking in little particles of foreign shit like that's not organic in any way, and it's just getting absorbed into your body, and like it can't be healthy. And yeah, it does feel like a ubiquitous thing where you're like, what could we even fucking do to stop that? Because if you go and you like look at like the water of Lake Michigan, if you took a cup full of the water in Lake Michigan, you're gonna find a fuckload of microplastic just in that. Like if
Yeah.
you just go around anywhere, it's like, how do you clean that out of there? Like what do you do? Like I don't know. It just makes me. It's just weird. It's like I do think it is kind of like our generation's unleaded gasoline, or leaded gasoline versus unleaded gasoline. That whole thing, and I guess every generation has that. But it's like I don't know. And I guess there's a tendency for every generation to be like, well, this is going to be the worst. Like every generation thinks it's they're the last or whatever. But it's like you're looking around and you're seeing all this plastic fucking everywhere, and you're like, how do you handle something like that? And like, how long is it until it's actually a meaningful problem beyond just like, oh, it's causing, birth defects, or oh, it's causing a drop in IQ, which are tangible, meaningful issues, but they're like a little bit more abstract. And so it's harder to kind of pin down. You can say, oh, well, this is coming from a variety of different things. But how long
Right.
until it's like, there's fucking dams of plastic. Like, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? It's just, I don't know. It's just kind of, it's disheartening to see that. And then like I said, like no one talks about it except for fucking fringe right wing schizo posters on Twitter that are like, "Don't touch receipts, don't do this, don't do that," and they're right, but it's like no one listens to them. So like, what? I don't even know. I don't even.
Well, and that's the
It's kids.
that's like the framing device in general, right? Is that you just you push this stuff to like right wingers, and so then it poisons the well, and then
Mm-hmm.
normies can just use it as like synonymous with just like the funniest thing one could say.
Right.
Um, there was like we had like a relative over the holidays that was like making jokes about microplastics, and it's
Really?
just like, yeah, and it's just like, okay, like, I mean, I guess it's funny. I mean, like, jokes in the way that it was like kind of taking the piss out of the whole topic. And it's just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
like, I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know. um,
It's getting to be like spiders. You know how it's like you swallow like a spider every night or whatever when you're asleep. There's some kind
which
of
is
weird
totally
number.
not true.
Yeah, probably bullshit, but it's like getting that way with credit cards, basically. Like microplastics are going to be like, yeah, every night when you're asleep, you're going to get like 4 credit cards swallowed every single night. No one knows who's dropping them in there, but Chase Bank is like flying around and just
Yeah,
throwing them out.
the Chase Fairy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I I don't know. It's not a good thing. We'll see what happens. Lead paint, right?
Hmm.
Lead and gasoline, right? I don't
Hmm.
know. Just I don't know. I'm trying to lately like try to be like on white pills a little bit, you
Yeah.
know, and just be like just let the solutions be simple, because I do think that, man, this is something I want to talk about. And but this is connected, right? This isn't like a segue. Like, excuse me, sorry. Whew, this coffee hasn't kicked in quite yet. Demoralization campaigns.
Hmm.
All right, and the big one. So microplastics. I'm not really saying that microplastics are a demoralization campaign. I think it's like a real thing.
Hmm.
But I think that the way stuff gets framed is really important, and I think that having it just be framed and pushed off to the margins, to where it's just like just schizos talking about it, yada yada yada, is a way of demoralizing people, right? And one demoralization campaign that I'm like really sensitive to, that really frustrates me, is good lord, dude, whenever I fucking record an episode with you, I just like get like everyone in the fucking world tries to get a hold of me on my phone. It's like, what is going on? You motherfuckers don't want anything from me the rest of the week. Is the big demoralization campaign that I'm sensitive to is just the like misogyny shit online. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy misogyny as much as the next guy. You know what I mean? I'm married now, so I enjoy misogyny even more potentially. Um,
Now you kind of have a little bit of a pass to be misogynistic, and you're like, yeah, but I got the wife, dude. I'm a good
yeah,
guy. Trust me.
no, no, exactly, right. I mean, I fooled one of them, you know, because they're so foolish. No, but just this whole like, I mean, you haven't been on Twitter that much lately, but like these people are, like how
These people are sick.
well, right. You know how like leftists online kind of just create communities to just be like obese, mentally ill little soft boys.
Sure. Yeah.
That's like basically what right wing Twitter does.
Hmm.
Except what they're doing is they're just like poisoning the well and just like destroying the basic premises that would have someone try to pursue a meaningful and good life.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the amount that right-wing dudes online are just trying to black pill each other on every woman you'll ever meet in your entire life is like an insane whore is wild, dude.
Yeah, that's insane, dude.
And I think that it has a I think that this is like it's across so many different planes of culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that pornography is a demoralization is part of this campaign. I think that right-wing Twitter just blackpilling each other on like every woman just being this huge run-through whore
Mm-hmm.
is part of the campaign. I think oh my gosh, the biggest thing is this whatever podcast. Have you seen this shit? It's just these dudes talking on a panel with just like sluts, and they're just asking leading questions to just humiliate them.
Oh my god, no. I would never. No, I don't know that.
That shit's a psyop, right? That shit's a fucking psyop. Okay. I think dating apps are a fucking psyop.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just the whole manosphere and just like these fucking like literally high value male has become like a term like a term that indicates somebody is like a young man psyoping themselves, right?
Yeah, dude.
People just like people just paying attention to this whole thing in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's bizarre, right? And the big thing of it is like our culture is led by like a relatively small elite,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I mean that economically, right? Of like, the average person people are led to believe that the average person has like this Amazon Alexa fucking 5-bedroom home, drives a Tesla, and goes on 2.5 vacations a year, yada yada
Right.
yada, right?
Watches Modern Family.
Yeah, obviously it's bullshit, right? But it's the kind of way that it's like just the same kind of way you look at like who's the actual patronage base of like the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Right. To be honest, who's the fucking actual patronage base of the fucking Republican Party, right? Of just middle class politics in general, right? But it's the same way with like with dating culture, right? Is that you look at like fucking these apps, right? All right. I've never really had any luck with these apps. Nobody I really know has ever had any luck with these apps, except for like a small handful of people I know who just absolutely cleaned up on them, right? And and this is what everybody says, and this is the whole thing, right? Is that it's like dating apps don't work for like the bottom 95% of people, right? If that, right? Probably higher, right? 97%, right? And for that like 3%, 3 to 5% of people that are actually getting luck on these sites, it's generally just hookups, right?
Yeah,
and this
definitely.
is the other thing you find out, like just this kind of hookup culture, which again, I don't even like this phrase, right? This like isn't a thing that most people are actually really participating in.
Yeah.
Right. People will hook up with people here and there in the course of their life, right? That's not necessarily totally unheard of. But this idea that it's actually meaningfully a replacement for dating, as if most people aren't just like going through large sections of their life just basically being celibate, which is exactly what's happening for just a huge majority of people. It's just like a total fucking delusion, right? But again, the way we talk about all of this stuff is led by basically just like this kind of like statistical outliers, right? And I don't know, man. I mean, like if somebody listening to this show is interacting with people who are, you know, just super promiscuous and all of these things, then like I will be the first to tell you that like that is not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And like you should cultivate different company if you don't find that that's fulfilling to you, which you probably don't, right? And I don't know, this is just the whole, just black pills everywhere. I'm going to kind of jump around again to just another example though, but we've got friends, new parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking to us. This is an interesting thing, okay? New parents talking to us, their friend, who we don't spend any fucking time with for obvious reasons, is I think I might have told you this, maybe not.
Oh, yeah, I think so. They were using non-binary pronouns.
Exactly. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I already gave this. All right. I already told this, so I'll give a truncated version here. Sorry, having a little sip of my coffee. They despair over and over and over again. Oh my gosh, what are we gonna do about this? What are we gonna do about that? And it's literally like, what you're gonna do is you're probably gonna end up sending your kid to public school because everyone's getting fucked economically and it's free babysitting for fucking for fucking 14 years. You're probably gonna do that, right? And what you're gonna do if you're gonna be successful at that is like you're gonna love your kid and you're gonna fucking be a successful enough parent to where they love you and think you're cooler than these like horrible little fucking hall monitors that are going to demand that they do shit every day for those 14 years, which isn't a super high set bar. And they're going to come home and be like, I learned this whack thing from my teacher. And you're going to say, your teacher's a fucking retard. And they're going to go, I love you, Dad. I believe you.
Yeah.
My teacher's a retard. And that's like going to be how you deal with it. Right. And like, is that a perfect answer for that? No, of course not. Right? Is it perfect that we have fucking plastic in our bodies? No. Is it perfect? Is it perfect that there's like fucking mind-rotting amounts of pornography and that like there is, while admittedly a smaller section of the population, still like just this group of people that are just like metaphysically just ravaging their souls by just like taking away any profound quality to sex in relationships. Yeah, that sucks, right? But like it actually really doesn't need to be as big of a problem as people are making it out to be, because water is still wet. You know what I mean? Like there's some natural constants that remain through all of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, the plastic's a little bit of a trickier one, but I do think it is just like, dude, if you're eating fucking Hot Pockets, it's probably easier for plastics to get into that more than like the fucking squash that I'm going to go pick up at the grocery store. You know what I mean? Honestly, you know what? I'm going to base this on very little. I'm going to base this on nothing other than just common sense and intuition. I'm going to say fucking in the age of microplastics, start eating shit with a rind. All right.
Yeah.
Start eating oranges. Start eating. I mean, I don't know if a squash necessarily has a rind, but like it's got a hard exterior. Start doing that. You a coconut? Dude, plastics aren't getting in that fucking shell. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They probably are, but like less of them. You know, so you get what I'm saying? Just this, like I'm trying to be optimistic. You know what I mean? I mean, we're hoping for a beautiful young child. And I'd love to homeschool him, you know?
Yeah.
It's incredibly likely that we won't be able to, right? For whatever reason. I don't want to be defeatist, right? I mean, it's also totally possible and potentially likely, you know, that we can, but I'm totally being long-winded here. I'm just saying, like, you need to be optimistic about it. And my kid's not going to get fucking turned trans if I like am able, and for everybody, maybe that's not the easiest thing in the world, but if I'm able to take a part in their fucking lives and like let them know that I'm in their fucking corner and I'm checking in with them, my kid's not gonna get fucking turned trans. Okay.
Right. And if they do come, like, if you do cultivate that relationship, then, like, if for some reason they do somehow start down that path, then they'll come to you first and they'll be like, hey, for some reason I feel kind of like a woman sometimes or whatever when they're like 8 years old or whatever. And you'll just be like, oh, yeah, dude, that's just because sometimes, like, you just feel different ways in life and that's just how it is. And you're not a fucking woman and it's okay to feel different ways. And then they'll be like, oh, sweet, dad, thanks. And then it'll just continue. Like, you can address the things that come up as they come up in a healthy way too, then a way that's going to like recenter them in a healthy way, to where it's not even just only about like, well, you'll set them up with a good foundation, then it's on them. And that is the case, but also you can continue to guide them. And if you set a good foundation, they'll come to you with these important things and like these quandaries that they have. And they'll be like, well, what do I do about this? Because you've created that system of trust and support, and then you can be like, well, let's handle this in a good, reasonable manner because I'm an adult and I can actually do that, and a child doesn't really have the capability to do that as well. Whereas, like, if you don't have that,
this is the fucking thing: is people will go, and I'm gonna be callous a little bit right now, which is just like people are just like, oh my gosh, like, you know, some of these fucking stories are here. It's like people got served divorce papers or something, right? Where they're like, oh, you know, one day it just my kid came home and like fucking, you know, it's like they came with the Gestapo of the fucking school counselor and they were just like, you know, they're gonna be going by Susie now and we're gonna fucking take your kid if not, you know, and it's just one of these things where it's just like, dude, like, okay, that sucks, right? That sucks, okay? And I pray for everybody involved there, right? But at the same time, it's like, how the fuck do you let this fester under your fucking nose for this fucking long? How the fuck did you fuck up so goddamn bad that your child is able to completely live like a double life to the point where they're like a different person at school? Now, you know, our kid's going to act a little bit differently at school, maybe get up to a little bit of trouble, you know, sure, right? But like, they're not like developing a different soul, you know what I mean? So it's, again, there's of course blame to be put on these fucking parents. Now I'm not doing the insane leftoid thing of being like, well, they should have known that they were a fucking tranny and support them. It's like, no, that's fucking horrifying. That's a nightmare, right? You should be engaged in your kid's life enough. You know, honestly, it's a cliche, but just literally like just the whole like, what did you learn in school today?
Yeah,
that's like a whole fucking thing. You know, I remember growing up with my dad, just like, what you learn in school today, eat dinner together every day at the same time, talk about shit. And he was the one, again, he's just the one that's like, you know, my mom gave me a little more leeway. My dad was like tight, right? And he was the one to just be like, oh, like your math teacher was talking about, you know, the internment of Japanese people in World War II. How about we just don't listen to anything your math teacher says unless it's math, you know? Right. Your math teacher sounds like a fucking idiot. You know, I remember, I think one time I like got in trouble in elementary school. And like it was some dumb shit, and the principal, who's like one of these fucking therapy beasts, it like calls my dad to be like, well, your son, you know, blah blah blah. And I remember he like yelled at her over the phone, and I could hear it, and I just remember, again, I think maybe I would be maybe a little more balanced than my dad, because you still want your kid to be respectful, right to the extent that they need to be, but like, it did instill in me a healthy level of like, what the fuck do I care what you think? You know, which is a good thing to have. And honestly, it's a really good skill to learn for navigating bureaucracies. Which, to be honest, I mean, that's like, dude, Jesus Christ, I have like my first physical in like a couple of years tomorrow. I'm kind of looking forward to it. And they have sent me like, since yesterday, they've sent me like 5 reminders. It's like, dude, like, leave me alone.
Like, I'll be there, bro.
No, I'm not happy about it, but I'll be there. Jesus Christ, fucking shut up. Anyways, you get what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, most of adult life is just navigating bureaucracy, unfortunately. So that sets
Well,
them
and
up pretty good.
that's like the first big lesson we're like giving kids by sending them into school. Is
Yeah,
it's like, you know, if you can learn the actual material secondarily, then like that's great, right? But like how to survive in prison and how to deal with a bureaucracy are like the two main things you're learning from school.
for real. How to take opposing viewpoints and not just completely melt down immediately.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe. I mean, yeah, I would hope so,
Well,
but
that should be a healthy way to come up through like a well socialized, upbringing would be that you can hear
I don't
other
see that a
people's
lot in the public
opinions.
school system. But
That's actually true. Well, I don't know, dude. I mean, I feel like I don't know. I think my public school was a little bit different because like we were raised down south, and so it was like a different cultural programming that was going on down there than what y'all were kind of unpacking up there. I mean, it's similar
yeah, we
still.
were unpacking something.
But yeah, man. So like I think that sending your kids to public school, unfortunately, is probably just like the route most people have to go because like you're saying, yeah, it'd be nice to be able to homeschool your kids and be able to like do all this, but not everyone has that time, unfortunately, and a lot of people are going to have to just send their kids to public school, and like that's why I have a little bit of an issue with like the whole homeschool movement that like people on the right lean to a lot. It's like, no, the public school system is still fundamentally meant to be a public resource. And you don't want to just like throw that up into the air and be like, fuck all public resources, even the ones that are supposed to be for us. Like, let's just make our own way on our own, everyone isolated. It's like, no, let's just like try to like make the public systems that are there and resources work for us in a better way, which I don't know exactly how to do that. Maybe that's like why there's been more of like a battleground at school boards and stuff like that. I think that's kind of part of it, but that's the thing that like I don't know. I think the public schools are generally like okay, despite the indoctrination and the whole like they're basically like indoctrinating you into a set of either cultural beliefs or like economic beliefs just across the board. They're giving you kind of like a bill of goods, and it's kind of bullshit, a lot of it. But having to deal with a lot of people from very different backgrounds, and like having to navigate that world in a social setting, I think that's a really healthy thing that you get from public school that like it's harder to get in a private setting or from even like a homeschool setting, because like I was going to school in public school and I had like people who were Muslim and wearing head wraps. I had people who were Indian with like with the dots on their head in school. I had a bunch of black people I went to school with. I had middle class white people I went to school with. So it's like I'm seeing a lot of different angles of life, and from not necessarily like, oh, it's just all this diversity, but more so like different modes of thinking, and you're having to
Well, yeah,
engage with them.
it like socializes people. It
Yeah.
socializes people, which yeah, which is good. I mean, yeah, I have a hard time giving the public school system credit for that because like that's just it's good that it's like a big it's good that it's just like a big experience that we put kids through because kids need
Hmm.
experiences. Um, I like I still think that the public school system's like a fucking mess, but
Yeah. Well, they don't do a good job of facilitating like socialization in public schools either. Like they don't do a good job of facilitating healthy socialization. It's up to you to like it's like you're saying it's just an experience, like a gauntlet that we're putting kids in. And it's good that they have the experience and they have to get through that and learn. But like the school itself is not like it's not like there's curriculum that's like actively helping build robust social connections and strong communities.
right.
If anything, it's doing the opposite.
Yeah, I mean that's where it's like prison survival. You
Hmm.
know, I remember like getting out of high school and just honestly having like a phase of unlearning the social
Hmm.
skills that
Hmm.
I picked up there, which was really helpful for me. Um,
I think that that's like, I think that that stage of life, like in high school and then after high school, and like young adolescence, is fundamentally about shedding either cultural conditioning that you've picked up from like how you had to behave in school to get through it, or like beliefs that you were taught in school, or like conditioning that you had from your parents, and like stuff that you took unquestioningly or had to develop. Once you get out of it and you're more like on your own and you have more of a fully functioning developed brain, it's like you start to reevaluate a lot of the behaviors and beliefs that you hold. And like that's kind of like where a lot of the rebellion, like teenage rebellion stuff comes in too, because that's more so like they're unpacking the beliefs that they picked up from their parents or whatever. But you also have to do it from like things that you've developed yourself as coping mechanisms of how to like make sure that you can survive in school, or make sure that you can feel all right when you're in like a social setting, or like whatever it is. And like having to understand what those programs are that you built, and then like that's kind of like the work of life. Like I think that's your basically life from the age like 25 onward is basically just like trying to unpack and understand like all the systems that you've built up within yourself, to like either for security systems that you've built in yourself, or like something that helps to like feed your ego, or like whatever kind of cultural set beliefs you have that you're questioning. Like when you get older, it's just kind of working through that and like cataloging it and understanding like what are some things that I developed myself that are maybe not healthy responses, and then like what are some things that I picked up because of the culture around me that are also not healthy behaviors or thought paths either.
Yep. I remember school kind of like training me to treat friends as something you collect as opposed to like a thing you invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of really having like a quantity over quality approach to it. And
Yeah, you want to
I
be at
don't
the
know.
full lunch table.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a difficult thing to navigate once we're at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But again, and this gets back to my whole fucking point, which is just it's not complaining about that stuff. I get the sense from people, the very distinct sense, and this is what makes me instantly think that it's just this big demoralization campaign, is like I just get the sense that people don't actually want solutions. I get the sense that people just want to complain,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I don't know. I don't really have like a lot of patience for that.
Yeah.
I complain all the fucking time. My wife will attest to that. Um, but I mean, like when you're talking about something like real, like what the fuck you're gonna do to raise your kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. Like I want some real fucking solutions, and
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a product of Washington State Public Schools,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I came out all right. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Mileage may vary, and so it's just I don't know. It's a lot of shitting on things, and this is. I mean, the topic I'm really interested in is just the like anti-women demoralization campaign,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's just one of these things. It's like okay, like we're just going to complain about schools endlessly, and until what? Like until we just don't feel good about any solution, you
Yeah.
know. And we're just gonna die, and it's
And
like
so we
it's
just
like
don't educate kids at all, you know?
exactly,
We
and like the whole thing on the right just being like, okay, so like, I mean, I'm not gonna act like everyone on the right is like a religious right winger and they want to like have a family, There's like a significant amount of like annoying Nietzscheans or whatever,
mm-hmm.
but it's just one of these things like a lot of these people, a clear majority of these people think that you should like get married and like build a life and like ideally start a family, right? I mean, in my mind, that's basically what getting married is, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it leads to. Um, and it's just like, dude, I mean, if we're just gonna fucking, if we're just gonna black pill each other so much on just all women, then like, why in the fuck are we even gonna pursue that end at all, right?
Right.
And so then at
Let's
that
just all
point,
circle jerk and be gay then at that point.
well, no, exactly, and it's just like, I mean, at this point, like, what's the end goal, or do you just want to keep me online complaining in a group
Mm-hmm.
chat with you forever?
Well, I think that's
Um,
like the edgelord take is that, like, I mean, all these people are just gay. because like they just actively hate women so much, and they're trying to recruit other people to hate women. And like, what does that logically lead to? Just a bunch of dudes that aren't having sex that like, you know what I mean? Therefore they're gay. It's like that's the take on that. You know what I mean? They're not fucking. They're trying to get other dudes not to fuck. So what? So they can fuck each other. It's the only logical thing you could think if we're gonna be
No,
like sex reductionist.
it's pretty gay.
Yeah, I mean, big time. Like,
So
dude,
yeah,
sitting around and nitpicking and breaking apart women like in one way or another is like a very feminine
I'm trying to
characteristic.
break apart women, but just
Fucking.
talking about having sex. Talking about having sex with women.
But yeah, dude, like
Um,
breaking down women, that's something women do. That's not men shit, dude. Man shit's like supporting women, like looking in, like being interested in women, like trying to get involved with women. Women shit is like
this is the
looking
other
into
thing.
flaws of other women.
This whole thing is like antithetical to being a fucking man,
Yeah,
because it's always all about like any kind of actual behaving, in a chivalrous manner, is always immediately met with like, oh, this must be an unbalanced and like debasing form of this, right?
right.
Like every woman is just completely taking advantage of you, and there's no way to ever imagine a situation where you would actually be like wanting to take care and care for another person.
That's
It's
nuts.
I mean, well, it's real. I mean, it's fucking real. This is how people behave.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's the flip side of like those. Like, there's also like you get a bunch of TikToks and stuff that'll be like, or like posts or whatever. They're like, my man needs to buy me fucking this and buy that and buy this, and so they're kind of like they're reinforcing each other at the same time. And that's the thing with like that's the problem with because you're talking about this all like there's the women hating and all this and all that, which is 100% true, and the manosphere stuff is like filled with that. Like it's just so much of that. But at the same time, like, and I think before even the manosphere stuff really took off, you had like a really really strong push from women that were like the all men are trash kind of thing. And I
Well,
think
you
that like
still have that.
yeah, but I think it's died. Like I think that the manosphere stuff is like a little bit more strong right now than that vibe is with women right now. I think that like I think
Oh,
it peaked along with
for
like the Me
sure.
Too era.
Oh, for sure. No, this is the anti Me Too now. This is
Yeah.
like the like fucking the body count era,
Mm-hmm. And
and it's go ahead, sorry.
I was just gonna say we just kind of pivoted. Like the swing is now on that now, but like, and so now you're seeing like this like kind of more reactionary force from the masculine side. That's like, okay, well, like you were saying, we're all trash forever. All y'all are trash. You're all whores. You're all whatever, whatever, whatever. Obviously, both of those are very unhealthy ways of viewing another human being, and
Yeah,
they're
it's
like,
retarded.
it's not a good way to operate in the world. But like they're products of one another, and they reinforce one another, and it's like yeah, it's like what is the goal at the end of the day? Just to have everyone hate each other? Like if we're in this like postmodern era where we're deconstructing this and all that, we should be trying to better understand one another. But because we've been breaking down so many boundaries and stuff like that, it's like
Mm.
we're not able to actually say like let's let men better understand women now. Like let's try to work towards that. It's like because all of it's being like abolished and taken away. So like there's no defining characteristics between one and the other. So people are now trying to make up all this shit like, oh well, all women like want this and all want that, and all men do this exact thing. And it's like we could be getting into a time if you're going to like take like what's happening with postmodernism and critique, if you're going to take that and like try to be positive with it in any type of way that it could be, we could be saying like let's use this time that stuff is being deconstructed to try to like find healthy understandings of one another. But instead what's like being pushed via algorithm and stuff like that is just the most base and hateful versions of that.
Yeah.
And it's fucking bad. I think it's a lot. I mean, I think it's the algorithm, dude. Like, when you were talking about the dating stuff earlier too, that's part of it. Like, because I know people that do. Like, I know people that have met people that they're in long term relationships on dating apps, and then I know
Yep.
people that
Same.
also like, and they just did that. Like, they got on there, they met another person. It took a while. They met this other person though, and then that's how it worked. They didn't do the whole hookup stuff. But then I also know people who have done like just strictly hookups on the dating apps. And then like you have some people like me that have like, I used the dating apps several years ago, and it was like I met people, we kind of like would develop, small things, and then it was kind of basically like extended hookup culture where you're like, this isn't really anything real. Like, what are we even doing here? And so like I think that the people who use it as for hookups and clean up, they're like people who are friendly to the algorithm, because you see the same people post the same kind of shit on there. They'll be like, you'll
Yeah,
just see the
yeah.
same bio like on like 15 different broads, and it's like, I'm just looking for like blank, fill in the blank, and it's like the same thing, and you see like, oh, this was on like 4 women back had the same thing and they looked pretty similar, and it's like they're not a bot or whatever. That's just like what they've figured out works to attract the other part of the puzzle that's also there to just hook up, or whatever it is. And so like I think that there's a couple things with that. Number one, it's like the algorithms are pushing connection, and so like, and it's a very superficial surface level connection on a dating app in the first place. It's like, do I want to fuck this person? Do I think their interests are like any type of relatable to me at all? Yes or no. There's no like genuine connection off the bat until you develop a conversation. And so like, and it's like the starting point is kind of weird and isn't really set up for genuine connection in the first place. And then so it makes it more difficult to find those genuine connections. And so when you're on there, you're seeing all these people that are like, the people that seem to be doing well are just hooking up, and then people who are looking for actual connection, it takes a longer time or whatever. And so you get demoralized, or you feel like you're on the outside looking in. You're like, oh, everyone, I guess, is just doing hookup culture. I guess that's just what everyone wants now. But you come to find it's like there's a lot of people who are actually just looking for genuine connection on there, and it's not happening for them either. And so, but they're seeing like, oh, it must be that everyone's just connecting and hooking up nonstop. But like you're saying, it's like most of the people that are there are actually not even doing that, but you're getting shown that. And you're like, okay,
Mhm.
well, that maybe that's just what the culture is. It's like no one even wants long-term relationships. It's just like open relationship and hook up. Like that's where
No,
we're
you're
heading.
just in what you're describing is just like how cultural production works in general,
Yeah.
right? Oh, everybody must, this must be indicative of most people, and it's
Hmm.
laughably not the case.
Yeah, that's what I've come to find. Just in general, it's like none of the people that I know. I mean, I don't know. I have a lot of friends that are. I'm pretty young, still in my like mid 20s, and I have a bunch of friends that are like 24, 25, 23, whatever in that range. And like,
Hmm.
so I have a lot of friends that are like, no one, they're not necessarily trying to settle down and do long term stuff. So there's people who are like still, doing like hookup culture, not like hookup culture on steroids where you're like, I'm on Tinder or on Hinge every single night hooking up, but like just like, just going through and whatever happens, happens kind of stuff. But I find that most people are actually like, I don't think most people just want to have like an open relationship, want to be fucking a different person every night. Most people want just a normal situation. And like it just
Right.
doesn't always come along right away. And so you may have a period where you're just hooking up, like trying to figure out what works, and like put the pieces into place. But like I think that most people, like I think it's like what you're saying, like not most people want to live this like promiscuous kind of life that is like culturally being presented as like the mainstream thing. And it's like, yeah, these are just a bunch of weirdos yelling on Twitter or hooking up on Tinder. You know what I mean? Like this isn't actually like indicative of, because people at the end of the day still just want meaningful connections with people around them. And like when you show that to people, they jump on it, whether it's intimate like sexual relations or whether it's like friendships or whether it's like just meaningful stuff in your community. Whenever there's an opportunity to connect genuinely, like you can see that like it grabs people, and that's really what people want in life. But it's like it's difficult to transcend, it's difficult to use the very cold impersonal methods that we have of communication via text, via digital communication, whatever, and social media. It's difficult to transcend those to find genuine connection through them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think also kind of what's going wrong here a little bit too is I don't really think that there's like clear linguistics around this stuff. Like I think people will say like, "Oh, I'm just like hooking up. I'm not into dating or whatever." And
Hmm.
it's just like that's just like kind of dating. You're kind of
That is
just
right.
dating. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? It's just like what you're calling dating is what other people would call like courting,
Right.
right? But like just like getting to know somebody and like and just kind of like seeing how things go is dating.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It's funny. It's funny.
Well, I think it's a big mess, and I think that like the manosphere stuff and I don't even know what they call the women version of manosphere.
The mainstream.
I guess, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
Well, okay, well,
mainstream Western culture.
yeah. So, manosphere and mainstream Western culture both wrong, both unhealthy, and both reifying each other to get people to just to dislike the other gender, and it's not good. And yeah, I
It's all
think
demoralization campaign shit.
yeah, and I think that it's good to have like some basic level of like heuristics that you're bringing into engagement with other people around you, where you're like, okay, this person may act a certain way because they are this type of person. That's a healthy and good way to view things. But you gotta like be open to like letting people prove you wrong on that kind of stuff. And you can't go into things like you don't want to have these dark outlooks where you're like all women are sluts or whores or looking for money or whatever the hell it is, or looking for a high value man to like take advantage of or whatever the hell kind of nonsense that
High
is.
value man. High value man. If I have to hear people say high value man anymore, you know what I mean?
It's nuts. Yeah. It's like, it's okay. This is going to, I don't know, this may be libbed up kind of, but it's kind of like the racism. It's like, it's good to have some level of
Of
understanding of
racism.
demographics and race and how they affect individuals' behavior. And like,
Yeah.
it's good to like bring those heuristics into your interactions with people because you're like, okay, here's a table of a bunch of black people coming in. I might not get a tip or whatever. It's good to like understand that. But like, also, you can't just make that your firm, rigid, like immediate thing that you can't look past when you see those other people. And the same thing with women. It's like you can't just have this view of women that's static and unchanging because no one's ever gonna like you're never gonna actually let yourself develop a meaningful connection with the other person when you're seeing this other version of them that's not actually them. It's just a projection version you've made of them. So it's
Right.
like have your guard up when you go into relationships and like if you realize that they're kind of have certain behaviors and stuff that might make them a certain type of person, maybe you have a set of heuristics that you have to go along with that where you're like, okay, well, they might think this and they might do that. That's okay, that's good, that's healthy, that's human relation, that's how it works. But like allow that to be flexible and allow there to be times when you can say, I'm gonna like I learned that I was wrong about this with this person, and I'm not going to believe that anymore. You need to go into every individual interaction open
Well,
and with an
one of the
open heart.
whole central things about like a romantic relationship is like changing and growing.
Right.
Um, so yeah, for sure. Like have like a growth mindset about it. You know what I
Growth
mean?
mindset, grind set.
Growth. Good. No. But yeah, yeah. So I don't know. It's a fucking mess. It's a fucking mess. But I think the main point of it, my dog is woken up. The main point of it just being like, just don't get black pilled about shit. I think it's a waste of
Hmm.
fucking time. I think it's a waste of fucking time, and especially with shit like, you know, our children and shit like that. It's like, okay, well, you need to be like together for this shit. You know, you need to
Yeah.
have your mind straight, and you know, if you want to like actually like find a woman who's like not a fucking monster, then like you should have your head on straight, or else you're going to attract somebody who doesn't have their head on straight, and then it's going to
Hmm.
prove you right. So
Hmm.
yeah,
That's it too, like law of attraction shit. Like what you're looking for, you're gonna see it in every people, and you're gonna attract it too. So it's like if you're like have it set in your mind all women are whores, the girls you're gonna get involved with are gonna be whores probably. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be like, or you're gonna be looking for that and finding reasons for that to be the case, or maybe they're not there. Or you're gonna be like a broad and you're gonna be making up shit, like making up fake scenarios in your head the whole time that you're in this relationship and getting mad about shit that didn't actually happen. Just
right.
scenarios that you've made up in your head. So like yeah, get rid of that. That's cultural conditioning that's not helpful. If it doesn't help you, fucking leave it be, dude, and just find what does work. So like if you have this manosphere set of beliefs and it's still not leading to you to have any healthy relationships in your life, maybe you should start to think about where that's holding you back. And the same thing for broads on the other end of things. Or people who are like wanting to have kids but are like being like overtaken with black pills and stuff, and it's like, how, at what point is this being an actual
Climate change counts as that, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But it's like, at what point is wallowing around in the black pill of this actually inhibiting your ability to effectively like address this issue? Because there are issues within human relationships, within the climate, within public schools, whatever. But like, yeah, accepting like a demoralization campaign that's going to make you just like demoralized, black pilled, and stuff, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and then you're just fucked. So don't do that. Resist it.
Yeah. Amen. Because these people are sick. There it is.
These people are sick.
There it is. We're getting better and better.
These people are the sickest of them all. These people are sick. They are sick. And you better get used to hearing it. These people are sick.
And that concludes this week's episode of These People Are Sick. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked what you heard, you could head over to our Patreon page, which is the home for bonus content, extra episodes, video content, access to our Discord, and more. That's patreon.com/thesepeoplearesick, and we hope to see you over there.